The scent of stale air and aged timber greeted Alara as she pushed open the creaking front door. Dust motes danced in the slivers of sunlight, piercing the grimy living room windows, illuminating a landscape of draped sheets and forgotten furniture. The silence, thick and encompassing, was the most striking feature. It wasn't an empty silence, but one pregnant with echoes of laughter, hushed conversations, and the melodic clinking of her grandmother's teacups. She dropped her oversized toolbox with a thud that seemed shockingly loud in the stillness. Alara pulled a sheet off the sofa, revealing faded floral upholstery. A thin layer of grit coated everything. She ran a hand over the wooden mantelpiece, stirring up more dust. This wasn't just a house. It was a sarcophagus of memories, and she was here to resurrect it. The task, laid out before her in crumbling plaster and peeling wallpaper, felt immense, a mountain she had to climb with only a hammer and her own sheer will. She moved through the living room, her footsteps echoing on the bare floorboards. The dining room, equally shrouded, offered a glimpse of the heavy oak table where countless holiday meals had been shared. Alara could almost hear her grandfather's booming voice, urging everyone to take another helping. A faint smile touched her lips, quickly replaced by a determined set of her jaw. Sentimentality was a luxury she couldn't afford right now. This was a project, a practical application of her skills, a fresh start. The kitchen was the next frontier. Its worn linoleum floor, chipped countertop, and avocado green appliances were a testament to a bygone era. She envisioned sleek white cabinets, stainless steel, and a large island where she could bake sourdough on lazy Sundays. The image, sharp and clear in her mind, was a stark contrast to the reality surrounding her. She tugged at a cabinet door. It groaned in protest. The sheer volume of work stretched before her, a daunting canvas. Later, as the afternoon sun slanted gold through the grimy panes, casting long shadows across the floor, Alara found herself in her grandmother's old sitting room. It was smaller, cozier, with a bay window overlooking the overgrown garden. This had been her grandmother's sanctuary, where she'd read and knitted, a quiet constant in Alara's tumultuous childhood. The faint scent of lavender, a ghost of her grandmother's perfume, seemed to linger. Alara sat on the window seat, the wood cool beneath her palms. She closed her eyes, letting the quiet settle around her. She remembered her grandmother's gentle hand on her hair, the way she hummed while tending her rose bushes. This house wasn't just walls and a roof. It was a repository of love, resilience, and the quiet strength of the woman who had called it home for so many years. The weight of those memories pressed down, a sweet ache in her chest. But this wasn't just about the past. It was also about the future, about creating something new from something old, breathing life back into forgotten corners. She took a deep breath, the dust tickling her nose. The dreams she had for this place, for herself, felt fragile but potent. The renovation wasn't just about wood and plaster. It was about rebuilding, about discovering what lay beneath the layers of time and dust. She had a feeling this house had more stories to tell than she could ever imagine. Beneath the old oak, the midday sun beat down, warming the dust motes dancing in the air. Alara disturbed. She wiped a bead of sweat from her brow with the back of a gloved hand, surveying the battlefield before her. The backyard, particularly the sprawling area beneath the ancient oak, was a testament to neglect. Thorny brambles, thick as a man's wrist, snaked through a tangled mass of ivy, Lily's first whisper. Alara carried the small, damp book inside, placing it gently on the old pine kitchen table. Dust motes danced in the afternoon light, filtering through the grimy window panes, illuminating the subtle shimmer of the worn leather cover. She fetched a soft, dry cloth and a slightly damp one, then sat down, her brow furrowed in concentration. With delicate movements, she began to wipe away decades of accumulated soil and grime. The leather, once dark, revealed a deep, rich burgundy beneath her ministrations, scarred with fine cracks that spoke of its age, yet still surprisingly supple. A faint, almost floral scent, mixed with the earthy smell of damp paper, emanated from it. As the cover became cleaner, a faded inscription became visible in elegant looping gold script. Lily Albright. Alara traced the letters with a fingertip, a small smile playing on her lips. A name, a history. She felt a connection already, a quiet anticipation blooming in her chest. Taking a deep breath, Alara carefully opened the diary. The pages, though discolored at the edges, were astonishingly intact, the paper surprisingly robust. The ink was a pale sepia, but the handwriting was neat, flowing, and surprisingly legible, a testament to its careful preservation. At the top of the first page, a date stood out: July 14, 1953, 70 years ago. Lily Albright had lived in this house, or perhaps a house very like it, at a time when her own mother was just a child. She began to read, her voice a soft murmur in the quiet kitchen. The first entries were simple observations, almost childlike in their innocence. Lily wrote about the sun on the kitchen garden, the taste of fresh-picked strawberries, the way the old oak tree in the yard swayed in the breeze. Then, an entry on July 20th caught Alara's eye. The air felt thick today, heavy like wool. Mama said it was just summer heat, but I felt a rumble deep in my bones. I told Papa the fence on Elm Street wouldn't last the night. He just chuckled and ruffled my hair. Alara paused, a peculiar sensation prickling the back of her neck. Elm Street. She knew Elm Street. It was only 2 blocks over. She remembered a story her grandfather used to tell about a freak summer storm in the 50s that had wreaked havoc on the neighborhood, tearing down fences and uprooting a small maple tree. The specific detail of the Elm Street fence, it felt too familiar to be a coincidence. She continued, a growing unease mixing with her curiosity. The storm came just after midnight. Thunder shook the house. Mama said I was just a little dreamer, but Papa came in this morning, mud on his boots, grumbling about how the big storm really did break the fence on Elm Street. A shiver traced its way down Alara's spine. Lily had known, not a guess, not a lucky prediction, but a knowing. Alara's logical mind rebelled, but the evidence, scrawled in sepia ink, was undeniable. She turned the page, her heart beginning to beat a little faster. Echoes of the past. The leather-bound diary, a familiar weight in Alara's grip, seemed to pulse with a faint, almost imperceptible energy. She bypassed mundane entries, her fingers tracing Lily Albright's elegant script until a name caught her eye. Grandma Rose, began the entry, dated March 14, 1988. Alara leaned in, a whisper of aged paper and dried wildflowers rising from the brittle pages. A terrible clatter from the kitchen today. Grandma Rose's cherished blue teacup, gilded and adorned with tiny painted forget-me-nots, lay shattered on the tile. Her face crumpled, not from the mess, but from the raw wound of loss. It was a gift from Papa, she'd whispered, a tangible memory of their first picnic by the creek. I tried to mend it, but some things, once broken, can never be truly whole again. Alara's breath caught. She remembered the story vividly, recounted by her mother countless times. The teacup wasn't merely porcelain, it was a legend, a testament to a love that spanned generations. Her mother had always lamented its demise, describing how Grandma Rose had kept the shards in a velvet pouch for years. This wasn't a generalized prediction, it was an intimate, specific detail from her family's past, recorded years before Alara's birth. A cold prickle danced across her arms, a sensation far removed from the dust and damp chill of the old house. She turned another page, her gaze now searching, no longer passively reading. A date leaped out, October 27, 1995. Alara's heart hammered a sudden frantic rhythm against her ribs. That was the day. The air feels heavy today, like a storm brewing, but not of rain. Little Buster ran off into the woods again, chasing a squirrel, but he didn't return when called. Alara cried until her eyes were swollen shut. I searched for hours, calling his name until my voice was raw, but the woods swallowed the sound. Sometimes the paths we choose lead us far from home, and sometimes the ones we love vanish without a trace. He was a good dog, loyal and full of joy. I hope he found a new adventure wherever he went. The diary slipped from Alara's grasp, landing with a soft thud on the floorboards. Buster, her childhood golden retriever, her devoted shadow, her confidant. He had simply vanished one crisp autumn afternoon. She'd spent weeks, then months, leaving his bowl out, calling his name into the encroaching twilight. The ache of that loss had never fully receded, a dull throb beneath the surface of her adult logic. Lily Albright, a girl who lived in this very house, had chronicled Buster's disappearance, detailing Alara's inconsolable grief with uncanny precision. It wasn't a guess, no lucky coincidence. The blue teacup, Buster. The sheer singularity of these events, known only to her family, sent a shiver of profound unease through Alara. This was more than a strange old journal. This was a direct echo from the past, reverberating with a truth she couldn't explain. The rational bedrock of her mind felt like sand shifting beneath her feet. The unsettling truth. The scent of old paper and dust motes dancing in the afternoon sun filled Alara's makeshift study, the dining room table now buried under an avalanche of Lily's diary pages, old photo albums, and digital archives of the local newspaper. Her logical mind, a fortress built on empirical data and tangible evidence, refused to surrender. There had to be an explanation. A local column, perhaps, that Lily had simply summarized. A community gossip chain that provided fertile ground for speculation. She'd spent the better part of the day sifting through microfiche scans of the Willow Creek Gazette, cross-referencing dates, names, even subtle turns of phrase. Nothing. Not a single article detailed the specific collapse of Mrs. Gable's prized rose arbor in the summer of '78, nor the unexpected torrential downpour that ruined the annual town picnic. Events Lily had described with unnerving accuracy, days before they occurred. Alara even found herself poring over her parents' old photo albums, searching for a blurry background detail, a hint of something that would rationalize Lily's foresight. The neighbor's cat, a ginger tabby named Marmalade, getting stuck on the roof of the old garage, vividly recounted by Lily with an almost childlike glee at the fireman's arrival. Alara remembered that day. She was 6. The memory was faint, a warm blur of sirens and flashing lights, but it was real. Lily had written about it 2 days before it happened. "It's just too much," Alara muttered to the empty room, pushing a stray strand of hair from her eyes. The specificity wasn't merely predictive. It was almost intimate. Lily didn't just write, "A cat got stuck." She wrote about Marmalade, the way he yowled, the exact time the fire truck arrived, even the brand of tuna the fireman used to coax him down. Details only someone present for the event, or anticipating it, could know. As dusk settled, painting the dining room in hues of lavender and gray, Alara felt a strange current of obsession pulling her deeper into Lily's world. The renovation, the peeling paint, the budget spreadsheets, all faded into the background. Every evening, after the contractors left and the house fell silent, she would return to the diary. Her fingers, usually accustomed to tapping on a keyboard, now traced the faded ink, the elegant loops of Lily's handwriting. She started noticing patterns, subtle shifts in tone, a faint tremor in the ink when an entry spoke of something unsettling, a bolder, more confident stroke when describing a pleasant, yet-to-happen event. The initial skepticism was slowly eroding, replaced by a growing disquiet. This wasn't a whimsical collection of daydreams. It was a chronicle of future events, meticulously recorded by a girl who seemed to carry the weight of untold knowledge. Alara's pragmatic worldview was fracturing, giving way to a new, unsettling truth that defied logic and reason. Lily Albright wasn't just observant, she was something more. And the final cryptic entry loomed, a dark cloud on the horizon of the unwritten future. A pattern emerges, the persistent scent of sawdust, a tangible echo of the house's ongoing transformation, still clung to Alara's clothes. But now, the diary on her bedside table offered a different, more evocative fragrance, the mellow tang of aged paper, the delicate whisper of dried blossoms pressed within its pages, and an elusive something else, like secrets waiting to unfurl. She'd promised herself a respite from the relentless rhythm of hammer and saw, a chance to immerse herself in Lily's world. Her fingers skimmed past entries chronicling simple joys and quiet musings until a specific date from late autumn, years ago, arrested her gaze. The air smells of burning oak today, not from hearths, but from something lost. The old mill, I think, a small flame quickly quelled, but a warning nonetheless. Alara's breath caught. The mill fire. A fleeting local news item, a minor incident, yet its memory flickered. A contained blaze, just as Lily had described. A shiver traced its way down Alara's spine. This was no longer just about a broken garden gnome. This was a shared event, a ripple in the community's fabric beyond Lily's immediate orbit. She closed the diary, its unexpected weight now imbued with an unsettling power. Her practical mind, usually so adept at dissecting problems, grappled for a logical foothold. Coincidence, an uncanny guess. The sheer specificity of the details argued vehemently against such simple explanations. Driven by a burgeoning, disquieting curiosity, Alara pressed on. A few pages later, another entry, dated early spring, snagged her attention. The Wren's house, the one by the old oak, is gone. Not taken by wind, but fallen, a silent descent from its rusty nail. I hope the little family found another home. Alara remembered that birdhouse. Her father, an avid birder, had erected it years ago. It had indeed fallen, she recalled, sometime in March or April. He'd discovered it on the ground one morning, its wooden roof askew, and replaced it with a sturdier one. Not a global event, yet another small, precise detail, observed and recorded before its occurrence. A strange alchemy of awe and apprehension stirred within Alara. She reached for a red pen from her desk drawer, a tool usually reserved for the precise markings of architectural blueprints. With careful deliberation, she underlined the entry about the mill fire. Then, the birdhouse. She flipped back through the preceding pages, locating the garden gnome, the inexplicably ripe tomatoes, the sudden downpour that had scuttled a particular outdoor gathering. A pattern wasn't just emerging, it was thundering into existence. Lily wasn't merely observant, she was precognizant. The realization descended upon Alara like a heavy velvet cloak, both electrifying and terrifying. The seemingly mundane details, the unassuming observations, now glowed with an unnerving prophetic luminescence. Alara's hand smoothed over the diary's worn leather cover. What other secrets did its pages conceal? What other futures had Lily glimpsed within its parchment confines? Her childhood home, the house itself, suddenly felt like a vault, not just of cherished memories, but of time itself. The falling star. The lingering scent of sawdust, a constant companion from the half-finished living room, clung to Alara's clothes. She swept aside a jumble of paint samples, her gaze drawn to the familiar worn leather diary. Tonight, it felt disproportionately heavy, imbued with an almost palpable sentience. Skipping past recent entries, her fingers found a page nearly 3 decades old. August 12th. The sky burned tonight, not with angry flames, but a gentle shimmering dust catching the light of something far, far away. Mother says they are just rocks, but I know better. They are wishes falling from the heavens, scattering their light before they become quiet again. I saw one, brighter than all the others, fall directly into the old oak. It felt important, like it was meant for me to see it. Alara's breath caught. August 12th. The date resonated with startling clarity. She remembered that night vividly, 8 years old, camping in the backyard with her father, a rare and cherished occasion. He'd pointed out the Perseid meteor shower, a dazzling cascade against the inky expanse. She could still feel the chill of the grass beneath her sleeping bag, recall the shared wonder in her father's hushed voice. And then, a truly spectacular streak, a green-white flash that seemed to detonate directly above their ancient oak. She'd gasped, utterly convinced it was a genuine star detaching from the firmament, meant solely for her. The memory's raw power, the surge of childhood awe, washed over her. This was no mere coincidence, the details were too precise. Lily, a figure often lost in her own solitary thoughts, had witnessed the very same celestial event, experienced the very same profound connection. The diary, once merely a curious antique, now pulsed with an undeniable resonance. It transcended its form. It was Lily's voice, a whisper across the years, sharing a moment Alara herself had treasured. A shiver traced Alara's spine, not from cold, but from a dawning, breathtaking realization. Lily had been beneath that very oak, perhaps just beyond the property line, at the exact moment Alara lay tucked in her sleeping bag, gazing at the same cosmic ballet. Their lives, separated by time and circumstance, had grazed each other in the most improbable, poetic fashion. This wasn't merely a diary chronicling mundane occurrences. It was a testament to an almost spiritual sensitivity, a connection to the world bordering on the otherworldly. The pragmatic side of Alara, the one adept at managing budgets and renovation schedules, urged dismissal. But her sentimental core, the part that still recalled the exact arc of that falling star, refused. The diary was no longer a dusty relic. It was a bridge, linking her to a past that felt increasingly alive, thrumming with a mystery she was only just beginning to unravel. And the final, ominous entry, hinting at an event yet to unfold, suddenly felt less like a cryptic prophecy and more like a direct personal warning. Tomorrow's promise. The final page of Lily's journal, almost translucent, seemed to absorb the light, its surface barely touched by ink. Alara's fingers trembled, grazing the worn edges as she turned it. The date at the top wasn't a memory, but a prophecy. Tomorrow. Her breath caught. October 27th, she whispered, the words dense on her tongue. Her gaze traced Lily's elegant script, now imbued with a startling gravity. When dawn's first kiss awakens the world, it read, seek the old stone path beyond the back gate. There, amidst the cracks where time has erased certainty, you will discover a tiny green shoot, beckoning a forgotten delight. It will be small, almost invisible, a whisper of life against the gray. Yet its emergence signals a turning, a quiet genesis. Remember the wind's secrets among the willows, the steadfast heart of the oak. They understand the mysteries of growth and the promise awaiting. Alara reread the passage, then again, her mind grappling to reconcile the simple imagery with the profound implications of Lily's foresight. A tiny green sprout, forgotten joy, so precise yet so enigmatic. What kind of joy? Whose? Lily's predictions had an uncanny accuracy, from the unexpected storm that delayed the roofers to the improbable recovery of a lost locket. This wasn't allegory, Alara knew. Lily's prose, while poetic, was always disarmingly direct. She closed the journal, its soft thud echoing in the silent living room. The setting sun painted the newly renovated walls with fleeting golden light, stretching shadows across the floor. The house, once a haven of familiarity, now pulsed with an almost palpable anticipation. She walked to the back door, peering through the glass at the neglected path to the back gate, a mosaic of cracked flagstones choked by persistent weeds. A tiny green shoot, indeed, would be easily overlooked. Later, preparing for bed, Lily's words were an insistent refrain. She moved through the accustomed rituals, brushing teeth, changing into sleepwear, her thoughts captivated by Lily's extraordinary gift. Her pragmatic self argued for coincidence, for selective memory, for wishful thinking. Yet, the irrefutable evidence of past entries mocked her skepticism. Lily had known. She had always known. Slipping between the cool sheets, Alara found little solace from her restless mind. The old house murmured around her, not with the settled sighs of an ancient dwelling, but with the subtle tension of a place holding its breath. Tomorrow, a delicate sprout, a rediscovered joy. Sleep was a distant shore, the night an expansive canvas between the tangible and the utterly unknown. She closed her eyes, visualizing the worn stone path, awaiting the first blush of dawn. The sprout of joy. The first rays of dawn, timid and uncertain, painted the sky in muted hues of rose and pearl. Alara, however, was oblivious to the subtle artistry overhead. She was already out of bed, her heart a frantic drumbeat against her ribs, the words from Lily's diary echoing in her mind. By the old stone path, where the sun first kisses the morning dew, a sprout of joy. She practically flew down the stairs, her feet barely touching the treads. The screen door slammed shut behind her, a sharp crack in the otherwise hushed morning. The air was cool and damp, carrying the scent of rich earth and burgeoning life. A thin mist still clung to the gables of the old house, lending it an ethereal, almost ancient quality. Alara's gaze, however, was fixed on the winding stone path that led from the back porch towards the overgrown garden. Her breath hitched. There, nestled precisely where a sliver of sunlight pierced the lingering shadow, was a tiny emerald spear. It pushed defiantly through a hairline crack in one of the moss-covered flagstones, a vibrant splash of green against the weathered gray. It was impossibly small, yet it radiated an undeniable tenacity. Alara knelt, oblivious to the dampness seeping through her pajama bottoms. She reached out a trembling finger, hesitant to touch it, as if too much pressure might cause it to vanish like a dream. The sprout was barely an inch tall, its two nascent leaves unfurling with a delicate grace. It looked fragile, yet its very presence felt monumental. A sudden, overwhelming urge to understand gripped her. Carefully, she reached for a small hand trowel lying forgotten near a rose bush. She began to dig around the stone, gently loosening the soil and the tenacious roots of weeds that had claimed the path as their own. The earth was soft, giving way easily under her ministrations. As more soil was cleared, a network of slender, almost translucent roots became visible, anchoring the sprout firmly in its unlikely home. Then, as she carefully scooped away a handful of damp soil, she saw it. A tiny, dried seed casing, still clinging to one of the roots. It wasn't a common weed. Her grandmother, an avid gardener, had a particular obsession with rare and unusual flora. Alara remembered countless hours spent poring over seed catalogs, her grandmother's finger tracing exotic blooms, her voice filled with wistful longing. One flower in particular had always captivated her, the Solara bloom, a legendary plant said to only sprout in places touched by pure joy and memory, its vibrant yellow petals unfurling only in the direct morning sun. It was a flower so rare, so finicky, that her grandmother had never managed to cultivate it. A gasp escaped Alara's lips. The sprout, with its distinctive leaf shape and the delicate twist of its stem, was unmistakably a Solara bloom. Lily's prophecy, her grandmother's lifelong yearning, and the very air around her seemed to converge in that single tiny plant. It wasn't just a sprout. It was a connection, a living bridge between generations, a silent testament to a magic she was only just beginning to comprehend within the walls of her own home. The practicality that had always grounded Alara began to fray, replaced by a profound sense of wonder. She felt for the first time truly tethered to the history of this place and to the quiet, extraordinary girl who had once walked these very stones. She sat back on her heels, the trowel forgotten, a tear tracing a path through the dust on her cheek. The sprout of joy. It was more than she could have ever imagined.